Hello, this is Ramanpreet Kaur, Science Mistress, Government Senior Secondary School, Mamujia, Fazilka. I hope you all are fit and fine. So, today we will discuss about a topic that is heredity and evolution. This is the chapter of class 10th. We will discuss about heredity in today's lecture. Okay, what is heredity? We will include total 3 topics in this lecture. First, variation in human beings, Mendel contributions, his pea plant experiments, and sex determination in human beings. So, first of all, introduction. We will discuss about the traits or heredity. Traits. What are the traits or characters? A recognizable feature of a human being or any other organism like height, complexion, shape of the nose, shape of the chin, color of the eyes, hairs, etc. are known as traits or characters. The transmission of these characters from the parents to their offspring is known as heredity. Okay, how these characters are transmitted from the parents to the offspring? These are transmitted with the help of gametes. Gametes are produced by the parents. Egg is produced by the female and sperm is produced by the male. After the fertilization, zygote will be produced. That zygote contains the information, or you can say the genetic information of the both parents, male and female. This information is passed further to the next generation so that that offspring have the characters of his parent, father as well as mother. Okay, but there are some features which are still different from their parents as well as from their siblings. What are that features? That features are variations. Okay, variations are the difference in the traits or characters among the individuals of a same species. These are called variations. That means the offspring is never a copy of their parents. There are many kinds of variations in the human species. For example, different complexion, dark color, light, brown, dusky, whitish, fair, and many more. Also, different eye color, brown, hazel, blue, green, etc. Height, tall or short. Hair color, black, brown, blonde, red, and brown. Hair type, or you can say hair texture, curly, wavy, or maybe straight. Face, free or attached earlobes. Chin shape, maybe it is clefted or pointed. Nose shape, maybe it is snub, thin or pointed. Here we can see some examples of the human being variations. Firstly, you can see a hair texture. Here you can see the homozygous straight hairs, heterozygous wavy hairs, and homozygous curly hairs. In next diagram, you can see the thumb. Like you can see the mine thumb, it is straight like the second diagram, the curved thumb. Also earlobe. You can see my earlobe, it is free earlobe, but many of them have attached earlobes as well, and different type of earlobes in the human species. Also, eye color is different in every individual. Most of the Indians have brown eye color, but there are many more colors like black, blue, grey, hazel or green eye color. Shape of the nose is also different in the individuals. Like some have snub shape, some have pointed shape, some have other type of nose shapes. So, how these variations are accumulated? These variations are accumulated in the organisms. The variation is significant only if it will pass through the generations, which means It is inherited from one generation to the next generation to the next generation and so on. Every generation have that particular type of variation. For example, in this diagram you can see a man who have black color. It is inherited to the next generation, further to the next generation and so on. The great advantages of the variation to a species is that it increases the chances of its survival in the changing environment, which means variations are benefited for us to survive in the changing environment. Okay, next we will discuss about Mendel's contributions. The diagram you can see here is the Mendel. His full name is Gregor John Mendel. Its lifespan is from 1822 to 1884. This man is known as the father of modern genetics. Genetics is a branch of science. Mendel works on the 7 characteristics of the pea plant. What are that characteristics? We can see that characteristics. Okay, first is seed shape. It may be round or wrinkled. Seed color, yellow or green. Flower color, purple or white. Pod shape, inflated or constricted. Pod color, yellow or green. Also flower position. It may be axial or it may be terminal. Stem height. The plant may be tall or short, or you can say dwarf. Mendel used the word dwarf instead of small. Okay, what are the reasons for the selection of pea plant for genetic experiments? There are many reasons why Mendel selected the pea plant. Because it is easy to grow in the garden. Pea plant are hermaphrodite. That means flower have bisexual characteristics, which means a flower have both the reproductive organs of like female and male reproductive organs, so that it can easily pollinated by the self-fertilization. Okay, then the next point is that the generation time of the pea plant is very less. We observe various generations in a small span of time. They have excellent disease resistance and have an optimal rate of survival. That's why the Mendel selected pea plant for his experiments. Next, we will discuss about the important terms. Before going further, we have to know about some definitions or some terms. Firstly, gene. What is a gene? A segment of the DNA molecule that codes for the synthesis of a particular polypeptide. Polypeptide means a protein. For example, T gene code for the tall pea plant. Next, what are heterozygous genes and homozygous genes? Heterozygous genes, the situation in which allelic genes are different. For example, T, small t for tall pea plant. There are 2 types of alleles, T and small t. Homozygous genes, the situation in which allelic genes are identical. For example, T for tall pea plant and small t for dwarf pea plant. Next is dominant gene and recessive gene. A dominant gene is said to be dominant if it is expressed when heterozygous condition is there, but its alleles are different, which means T small t gene code for tall pea plant. Here T is a dominant gene and it expresses itself so that that particular pea plant is tall in height, but it is heterozygous. What are recessive genes? The genes are said to be recessive if the phenotype that they code for is only expressed when the genes are homozygous. Okay, in capital T small t gene, small t is a recessive gene. It does not express its phenotype, so that it is a recessive gene. Then what are alleles? An allele is the alternative form of a gene that occurs at the same locus on the homologous chromosome. A homologous chromosomes are the chromosomes that have same number of genes, same number of alleles, which means on these homologous chromosomes there are two type of alleles. One allele is present on the one chromosome, other allele is present on the second chromosome. For example, capital T and small t are two alleles of a gene, capital T small t, which codes for a heterozygous pea plant. Okay, then Mendel gives his laws. First law is law of dominance. Mendel was a mathematician and then he comes into the field of genetics. He concluded his knowledge of mathematics and science together and become a successful as well as science and give some laws. First law is law of dominance. According to this law, when parents with pure contrasting traits are crossed together, only one form of the trait appears in the next generation. The hybrid offsprings will exhibit only the dominant trait in the phenotype. We will understand this definition with the help of a cross. Here you can see two plants. One is tall, other is dwarf. These are the parent plants. After the pollination between two parents, we obtained a F1 generation, first filial generation, where all the plants are tall, but they are hybrid or non-true breeding, which means their genetic makeup is different from their parents. After the self-crossing of F1 generation, we obtained four type of plants. Out of them, three are tall, one is dwarf. But these have different genetic makeup. One of them is short, one of them is true breeding, which means as his parent. Other two are hybrid plants, which are non-true breeding. We can understand this law with the help of another example. Like we have a green pod and yellow pod. Green pod produces G and G, capital G gamete, but yellow breeding, but the yellow pod produces small g gene. After the crossing, we obtained all pods which are green in color, which means the dominant factor, dominant G, express itself and all the phenotypes are green in color. Next is law of segregation. Mendel gives his second law, that is known as law of segregation. According to this law, during the formation of gamete, each gene separates from each other so that each gamete carries only one allele for each gene. We can understand this definition with the help of an example. Like here, we take yellow and green seeds. For yellow seeds, there are two genes, YY, capital Y, and for green, there is small y. Each homozygous parent in the first generation produces only one kind of gametes, which means yellow seed codes for Y, green seed code for small y. After the cross, we obtained first generation, F1 generation, first filial generation. We obtained heterozygous F1 offsprings produces two kind of gametes, capital Y and small y. After the self-pollination of these F1 offsprings, we produces two offsprings, F2 offsprings with 3:1 ratio, yellow to green seeds. We obtain 3 yellow seeds, 1 green seeds. But their genotype is different. Their genotype ratio is 1:2:1. This experiment is performed by the Mendel, which give two type of ratios, genotypic ratio, phenotypic ratio. Genotype is genetic makeup of the organism. Phenotype is external appearance of the organism. These two ratios are found to be different for law of segregation. Next is law of independent assortment. This law states that the alleles of a different gene are inherited independently within the organism that reproduces sexually. We can understand this law with the help of a dihybrid cross. Here we take a seed which is yellow in color or round in shape, another seed which is wrinkled in shape and green in color. Genes code for the yellow round seed are capital R, capital R, capital Y. For wrinkled green seeds, small r, small y. They produces parental gametes, capital R, capital Y, small r, small y. After their cross, we obtained F1 generation and we obtained round yellow seeds, but they are hybrid. Their genetic makeup is different than their parents. After the self-pollination of this generation, we obtained 9:3:1 ratio in the Punnett scale. This scale is known as Punnett scale. Here we obtained 9 yellow and round seeds, 3 yellow and wrinkled seeds, 3 green and wrinkled seeds, 1 green and wrinkled seed, so that their genotypic ratio is varied from their phenotypic ratio. But here we only describe the phenotypic ratio, which comes out to be the 9:3:3:1. This law was stated by the Mendel. After Mendel's law, we have to understand the rules of inheritance of that particular traits. These traits are inherited from father as well as from the mother, which means they equally contributed to the genetic makeup of their child, which means every characteristic is inherited, is influenced by the paternal as well as maternal DNA, so that for each trait there are two versions in each child, one from his father, other from his mother. Where are these genes located? These genes are located in a cell. In a cell, we have a nucleus. If we magnify the nucleus, we see there are number of chromosomes. After the magnification of the particular chromosome, we see the DNA helix. In this DNA helix, there are bases. These bases are joined together with the help of hydrogen bonds. There are mainly 4 types of bases: thymine, adenine, guanine and cytosine. The backbone of the DNA is made up of sugar and phosphate. The portion of this DNA will form a gene, and that gene will be expressed as a protein, and that protein forms a particular character or trait in the organism. How these traits get expressed? We know that information source for making proteins in a cell is cellular DNA. A section of this DNA provided data for one protein, and that protein is called for a gene. That protein is code for a gene. That gene controls the traits. As per Mendelian law, both parents equally contributed the genes. Thus, the child has a combination of set of genes from both the parents. Genes are present as separate independent pieces are called chromosomes, but not in a single long thread of DNA. Thus, each cell will have two copies of chromosome set, one from each parent. When these germ cell combines, or you can say these cells form zygote, they will restore the normal number of chromosomes to ensure the stability of the DNA in the species. Every species have different number of chromosomes. You can see in that diagram there is a chromosome. If we magnify the piece of chromosome, we can see the genes. Gene is made up of two type of sequences. First is exon, second is introns. Exons are coding sequences, introns are non-coding sequences. These exons are combined together and made up the protein. That protein is expressed in the cell and form a particular type of character. Next, we will see the sex determination in the human beings. We know that sexual reproduction involves the participation of both the parents. One is male, other one is female. But in few organisms, sex determination is by various other factors. For example, physical factors. In reptiles, we will take the example of reptiles. The sex of newborn baby depend upon the temperature at which eggs fertilize or they are kept. For example, some organisms can change their sex, which means sex is not genetically determined. But in case of human beings, this story is something different. In human beings, there are two types of chromosomes. First, autosomes, second, allosomes. Autosomes are 22 in pair, allosomes are 1 pair. Or you can say total number of chromosomes in human beings are 46. Beings, the sex is determined by the genes. Human beings have 23 pair of chromosomes which all are paired except the sex chromosomes which are odd and not perfect. Women have perfect set of sex chromosomes that are XX, while men have normal sized X chromosome and a short sized Y chromosome forming XY chromosome. Hence, all the children will inherit X chromosome from their mother regardless of being a girl or a boy. And from their father, they inherited either X or Y. This means the sex of a child is determined by what they inherited from their father, not from their mother. There is a myth in our culture that sex of the baby is determined by their mother, but it is not true. The sex of the baby is determined by the chromosome which are inherited from his father. It may be X or it may be Y. We will understand this sex determination with the help of a cross. If a father have XY chromosome and a mother have XX chromosome, they copulate and reproduce babies. If the baby have double X chromosome, which means she is a daughter, and if the baby have XY chromosome, he is a son. But there is a equal probability of a female child and a male child, which means there is a 50% probability of being male or female child. Now, what are traits? Traits are of two types, acquired traits and inherited traits. We will discuss about the acquired traits. Acquired traits are the characteristics that are acquired by an individual throughout his lifetime. He may be acquired these characters through his own activities, through practice, or through external influence. These acquired characters cannot be transmitted from one generation to the next generation. For example, ability to dance, ability to sing, ability to cook well, or other activities he or she should acquire throughout his lifetime. What are inherited traits? We possess unique set of traits. There are traits that are acquired through observing, learning, most of which are determined by the combination of environmental factors, which are acquired traits. But the traits which are governed by the genes which inherited from parents to the offsprings, that are called inherited traits. There are a number of inherited traits in human beings. For example, rolling of tongue, earlobe attachment, dimples, curly hairs, freckles, headedness, hairline shape, green or red color blindness, hand clasping, and many more features which are inherited from our parents. So, this is the lecture of today. Next, study about the evolution in our next lecture. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Stay fit, stay healthy. Thank you.